Okay, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to share the thoughts of the HERCA work group, Education and Training in Radiation Protection. And yeah, I will just guide you through it in the next 20 minutes. So first of all, HERCA, as Andrea already explained, is a voluntary association in which the heads of radiation protection authorities work together in order to identify common issues and propose practical solutions for these issues. And HERCA is working on topics generally covered by provisions of the Euratom Treaty, like also education and training requirements. And the program of work of HERCA is based on common interest in significant regulatory issues. Then in participation, so in HERCA, 32 countries participate amongst with the 28 European member states. And in addition, Iceland, Norway, Switzerland, and Serbia, and participants in HERCA from 56 organizations. So radiation protection authorities, technical support organizations, and here it says 330 nominations, so people participating from all these different organizations. We also have observers in HERCA from the European Commission, from the EIEI, from the World Health Organization, from FDA, and from OECD NIA. If we have a look at the structure of HERCA and how it functions, then we have the HERCA board. Andrea already described. I'm not part of the board, but heads of the authorities are. There is a technical secretariat that supports the board. And the chairmanship still is run by Mrs. Karla Petrova from the Czech Republic. Even though her period is ended, she is still waiting to be succeeded. We have underneath the board several working groups, and these working groups are separate entities that cover emergencies, medical applications, veterinary applications, research and industrial sources and practices, education and training, which I'm involved in, and national radiation sources. There are also networks active, and there's one network active on the dose passbook and outside workers, and there's a network on collective medical doses. There may be task forces, at the moment there are none, and yeah, we do organize workshops within these working groups, and they are open for subscription usually. So if we talk about RPE, so radiation protection experts and radiation protection officers, then yeah, these are entities that are implemented its legal requirements from the Euratom Directive, this depicted here. So Council Directive 2013-59 Euratom, laying down the basic safety standards for protection against the dangers arising from exposure to ionizing radiation. And if we look into this EU BSS, then we have a description of what an RPE should be. It is an individual or a group of individuals having the knowledge, training, and experience needed to give radiation protection advice in order to ensure the effective protection of individuals, and whose competence in this respect is recognized by the competent authority. And in a similar manner, the RPO, an individual who is technically competent in radiation protection methods relevant for a given type of practice to supervise or perform the implementation of the radiation protection arrangements. If we then have a look at the articles that are describing what tasks and functions are of RP and RPO, we have Article 14 of the BSSD, and that gives the general responsibilities for the education, training, and provision of information. It's not in detail, but it gives the framework. Then we have Article 34 about consultations with a radiation protection expert. Article 68, tasks for the undertaking, and then two important articles, 79 and 82. 79, recognition of services and experts, and then 82 and 84, really describing the tasks and functions of 82, the RPE, and 84, the RPO. So it's really described in relatively much detail what their functions and tasks are. So With this HECA work group, Education and Training in Radiation Protection, at first we organized a workshop in 2015, really having contact with all different countries on basically their national systems at that moment and how they would envisage the implementation of the BSS. We provided guidance with this work group in basically showing the possibilities of how RPE and RPO could be implemented. And one of our last tasks was the issuing of country fact sheets and a questionnaire to really have an idea of how countries implemented RPEs and RPOs. And we plan to have a workshop in 2021, so somewhere this year online, to really have a sort of end result. How did countries implement? And then also as an additional question, what problems do they see? Not only with the implementation of RPE and RPO, but also related to the COVID-19 pandemic. And you see at the right, you see the HECA guidance. Basically, this guidance showed the possibilities from plain implementation to possibilities that certain countries used. In a work group, we work with a mandate, and the mandate of our work group was at least to enable the member states to have a common understanding of the EU BSS. We needed to identify useful reports, so do not duplicate. So we used ETRAP, for instance, as basic information. And we came up with a guidance document, really showing all the different possibilities, making use of ETRAP, making use of what was put down in the BSS itself. Then we were basically tasked to set up a framework for the following up of the transposition. That is what we are busy with now, either being a new survey, and we decided that we wanted to make use of country fact sheets, really small fact sheets that show all relevant information. And basically we were also tasked to maintain oversight. So if anything new appeared, that did not happen until now. And then, of course, when we're finished, we need to recommend further work if needed. And we have some issues that still need to be solved. And that is, for instance, the issue of mutual recognition, which is really difficult and might be one of the future tasks of our work group. So I already introduced the country fact sheets and questionnaires. Basically, what these country fact sheets depict is the national approaches to the implementation of RPE and RPO. And basically these country fact sheets have the possibility to gather information from the member states. How did they implement RPE and RPO? And actually what it does is that it enables a quick comparison and also to enable this common understanding between the member states. So far we have contributions of 25 HECA member states. The people quickly counting see that only 16 flags are present, so I didn't put up the last bit. It became too crowded. And even we have one additional country fact sheet. So actually the coverage is pretty good we have so far. So basically what did we analyze from these country fact sheets? It showed us the national approaches. So we have results from 25 out of 32 HECA member states, and we had some basic questions answered by analyzing these country fact sheets. So first question, are RPE and RPO both implemented? What is the national terminology? What is the translation? What are the roles of RPEs and RPOs in their country? Are there categories of RPE and RPO, or is there just one present? Are they recognized? And then if they're recognized, what is their educational level? So what is the basic training? Is there a prescribed training, RPE specific? Is experience or work experience required? Is there training and retraining? If they're recognized, are they recognized for life, or is it limited to a certain amount of years? And also what entity performs the recognition? Furthermore, we wanted to know whether a combination of functions of RPE and MPE, so the medical physics expert, was possible, or even other combinations, and whether there were bilateral or agreements on recognition with other countries. While doing so here we see the example of the country fact sheet of the Netherlands. So very easy to see, definitions and roles for RP and RPO, some country-specific information, what type of rules and legislation are there present, what is the competent authority, and then also going more into depth, what are the tasks of RP and RPO, what is their education and training, retraining, how are they recognized, and then at the bottom a small table summarizing it all. So this is just looking at these country fact sheets makes it very easy, for instance, to understand what a French RPE is called, what their educational requirements are, whether they're recognized. So it gives a very quick comparison, basically. If we then have a look at the general picture thus far, so if we have a look at implementation of RP and RPO in the HUC member states that provided us with the information, then we can say that the figure of RPE is implemented in 22 out of 25 countries, so separate RPO in 20 out of 25 countries, and in 3 countries there were combined roles of RPE and RPO. So this really means that RP and RPO are implemented within the already existing rules and regulations, and within the previously existing systems. And actually in the Netherlands we did the same. So we just adapted our already existing system to become RPE and RPO. If we have a look at recognition arrangements, so at the bottom we have the RPE, the RPO, and at the top we have the RPE, so the recognized expert versus the supervising specific applications. So RPEs are recognized in 24 out of 25 member states. For RPO, that is different. Not in all countries that provided us with information, RPOs were recognized. And also it's really a necessity within the BSSD for RPE to be recognized, and RPO only if it's provided for in the country-specific rules and regulations. In the next slide, we see categories of RPE. So some countries only have 1 type or 2 types of RPEs. Others have many more, and even personal or specific facility, like it's depicted in this graph. So you see that 7 countries really have only 1 category. 4 have 2. The Netherlands do 2. So we have 2 types of RP. And you see that then also some countries have many more. So like 7 or 8 in 2 countries. And then in 5 countries, it's really specific to the facility the RPE works in. If we then have a look at categories of RPO, you see that 8 out of the 25 only have 1 category of RPO. And you see that it varies a lot. In the Netherlands, we do have 9 different categories of RPO. You also see that some countries, 3, have specific type of practice. So really RPO designed for the specific type of practice. And in some countries, it's the system is still in development, but they're trying to get there. If we then talk about the legal requirements in COVID-19, we heard already quite a lot about it. And at least in most countries that were participating in our last HERCA workgroup meeting in January, we can say that most countries try to have ongoing education and training, mostly online. And also Sotiris yesterday in the poster, or Monday, Tuesday in the poster presentation, already provided us with some information. So most countries try to really go on with RPE and RPO education. However, and this was depicted before, requirements in national rules and regulations may prohibit online education and or examinations. So usually the education itself is not a problem, but there are rules against, so you need to have live examinations, for instance. And what we also saw is that in some countries, there were requirements for face-to-face examinations for recognition of RP, and this was laid down in rules and regulations. So really online types of examination was not really possible. And yeah, as I heard, at least from the countries that participated in our last workgroup meeting, there they were able to at least have this face-to-face examination, so that at least the recognition of RPEs could continue. So this is really something that we need to bear in mind, that sometimes, even though the BSSD is not really restrictive, so it only says that you need to have education and training, and it says that you need to recognize RPEs, it does not really give form to that. And in some countries, it's really rather extensively described in rules and regulations. So there you might run into trouble. In the Netherlands, for instance, it was not a very big problem, because we do not have any rules that say that you need to have live examinations, even though it can have problems, of course, but it's not strictly regulated in that sense. And then, so the problems that our participants encountered are basically online education. Every country was able to provide some sort of online training, but of course, live training is preferred. Practicals, and that is something we heard about the first day as well, and yesterday, a good online alternative. So can they be performed online? You have hybrid forms, you can have live, you can have the serious games, and even the forms of interactive practicals like we saw yesterday. But it's something that is basically in development, and not everybody has access to these types of practicals. And the biggest problem is basically seen when online examinations are needed and for recognition. So face-to-face examination in some countries is required before you can be recognized as an RPE. So this brings me to our last slide. So this is what I wanted to convey. Any questions we can have during our discussion later on.